Okay. Hi, welcome to the April 2019 budget hearing. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance first. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. In case of emergency, please use the exit to the right, or use the stairway behind the elevator. Please do not use the elevator. So tonight is our annual budget workshop meeting, and this is for our budget 2019 to 2020. This will be our last budget before the Entergy closing. So what I've asked the administrator, we have had a preliminary meeting. It was our first blush, but I'd like to ask the administrator now to go over the highlights of the budget.
Sure. Good evening. I'll start with some general...
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
You have to open.
We have to open the public hearing. I apologize. Thank you. Rich Funchinoise keeps me in line. On a motion to open the public hearing for budget?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Okay, Kevin, I'm sorry.
No problem. Good evening. So I'll just start off with some general notes, and then I'll touch on the revenue side and the expense side, and then we can open up to any questions or any other items or issues. Just starting on the general of the budget right now, currently in the tentative budget, we're at 11.5% tax increase. Some of the reasons for that, we'll just start off, our special franchises, as we mentioned previously, had been reduced this year, approximately by $91,400 of assessed value, which translates to about $25,950 of real money value. So in the end, we're starting with a lower assessment than we did last year. So we're starting kind of in a bit of a deficit. So also, another items which were good things were the pension for the police and the employees' pension payments went down this year by a total of a little over $5,000, which was a positive.
Can I just go back and ask about the special franchise? Is that,
Sure.
is that a normal amount when it goes down, 91,000, or is that kind of on the high side? Because I know it adjusts every other year. It goes up, it goes down. So I'm just wondering, is that 91,000 in assessment, is that extremely high? Or just
That's not an
average?
extremely high number. We've had losses bigger than that, and we've had gains bigger than that. It seems like we've had a process where we go up and down. It's set by the Office of Real Property of New York State, and they set these every year. They send a tentative first, and then they'll send a final, and that's the number that we end up using in our
And there's
our
nothing we can do
assessment numbers.
about that?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
They're set by the state.
All right, thank you.
So in order to, if we were choosing to be within the tax cap levy, we would have only had a levy that grows $41,000. I just did the property tax cap filing, and we're at $148,000 over the property tax cap, just to put it in, just real numbers for everybody where we are.
Okay.
And the only other highlight general is that we have both labor contracts will be expiring this year. So we have meetings with the PBAs, with the PBA, and we're working to set up a meeting with the Teamsters. So that's just some general information about what's going on with this budget year. I'll start with the revenue side. It's easier. Revenues increased in this budget by 2.8% over the previous year's budget, which is good news. Our pilot payment increased by $54,211. We've had good sales tax numbers, so in this budget we've had a good increase in our sales tax numbers. We're still waiting to see whether there'll be an increase with the county on the 1% increase in the sales tax, but right now the number that we have in there is an appropriate number for where we usually end up, and it should be a good number for you. Also, this year we added a gross utility tax, and with this budget we're expecting another $85,000 of revenue, which would be a good benefit for the village. Other items on the revenue side were adjusted slightly. Mortgage tax was decreased a little bit. Our infrastructure agreement with Entergy went up another 2% this year. And
What is
also,
that at now? Because we started at 250.
I think we're at a little over 260,000 with a few
Okay.
years of 2% increases. And another item we put in is hopefully, in this budget, we're purchasing a new garbage truck. Usually these older trucks still carry a decent value, so we put some money into sale of equipment too. So that's the real changes on the revenue side for us this year, the significant changes. Now, on the expense side, our expenses in this year's budget over last year's has increased 4.5%.
How many?
4.5%. So our large expense increases in this year's budget was our employee health care costs. That would increase by $55,000 just to meet the expected cost of the increase of the night shift plan for the employees.
One question, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Am I reading the graph right, that we're now paying close to $1 million for, or did I get that wrong? In the
Yeah,
graph in the
exact
front,
number, which is pretty close to that now, yes.
for health
For the
benefits?
health care benefits.
How many people does that cover?
We have 26
Approximately.
full-time employees plus retirees.
How many
I'd say we
full-time,
have-
Kevin?
We have about 26 full-time
Yeah.
employees, plus some retirees that haven't reached 65, so we do
Okay.
have, I can't give you an exact number, but probably closer to 50, I'd say, total
Wow. Okay.
coverage.
All right.
So that was a large increase. The garbage truck, which we know is, needed a repair now, we need to replace the new truck. Our newest truck is a 2005. So on a finance plan of 7 years, that's about a $35,000 contribution for the budget for the next 7 years. At the wastewater treatment plant, we've had a lot of significant needs in that part, and a lot of those lines were increased. The equipment lines and the repair lines were increased. And we have projects that we need to get done over there. We need to do new gates. Also at the Albany Post Road Pump Station, we have a check valve that needs to be replaced. And we've also had problems with the panel down there. We've also recently we've taken some expenses, some significant expenses in that area recently. At the end of the year, we had to replace a pump at the Albany Post Road Pump Station again for a cost of about $10,000, which was in this budget. So increasing those lines is really a necessity in this budget to make sure
Those
that...
are included in the,
Well,
you've
the pump
budgeted
that
for
we...
those here?
No, the pump that I would just mention was replaced in this year's budget. But going forward, we have gates that need to be replaced at the sewer plant, which are original. They're the ones that direct the flow to each side of the plant. Those need to be replaced.
Is that budgeted for?
That's budgeted for in here. These are all things that we budgeted for in this. Plus also things we need to back up chlorine manifold, backup pumps and stuff like that need to be replaced. And then just general maintenance that comes along with the maintenance of the sewer plant. We've still maintained putting the pavilion steel in this year's budget. That's been in for a few years, and we have not gotten to that because of some of our, other things that have taken priority over that. So that's still in the budget this year. We looked into, and we're going to put into a de-icing and pre-wetting system for the highway. That'll be also help to be more efficient with our salt use and better services in providing and clearing the roads.
What does
Again-
that cost again? I'm sorry, I just don't
The
remember.
infrastructure part of it, the equipment was about 10,000, and then we estimated we use about 3,000 gallons per year at a cost of a little over $1 a gallon. So
Okay.
we also had to increase our salt numbers because in the last few years with these ice storms and these snowstorms that we've had, we've gone over on that line. So that was another increase in this year's
Do you
budget.
happen to know where we are between overtime and salt use?
Overtime, we
I'm
were
sorry.
under, and salt, we were over by, I believe it was about $12,000. I think I
Okay. announced
announced that number at our last meeting, and
Yeah, I
I have it here, but we are over on the other line, which is salt and other items as well, but
Okay.
primarily salt.
Okay.
So also this year, we put in for the track system for the police department, and in speaking with the new part-time chief, his suggestion was that we do 2 cars, because we never have 2 cars, more than 2 cars out on the road at any one time, because he's also asking that we replace our radios that will allow us to communicate with Westchester County and other police organizations versus the ones that we have currently. So there needs no change here because reducing the 3rd car will cover the cost of the radios. So there really isn't any change in the budget. It was a suggestion that he made because he didn't believe that we needed to do all 3 cars at this time.
Okay.
So our current system wasn't,
Our cell phones allowed us, and we were allowed to, we could communicate with Peekskill, but, and these radios will allow us to communicate with the state troopers as well as the county police and Peekskill. So it was something he suggested and thought that the department really needed. So
Yeah,
we
makes
made those
sense.
changes and tweaks to the budget in order to make it all work and fit into the budget.
So right now, if we've got an emergency, somebody, the officer would get on his cell phone or...
Call Peekskill, or a
Or
call
call
would
the
be
county
relayed
or
to
the state.
Peekskill, and they would reach out to somebody else, I believe is how it works. So those are some of the significant things. We also looked into the cameras at the Village Hall and at the Pavilion, and we've had some issues recently, and it's a good idea to have our facilities protected.
There's money in there for security, right? For
Yes,
for that.
we
for
put it
that
in there.
end?
That was budgeted for. And those were the significant increases. You know, we put in some money for new chairs and computers. We have to replace 3 computers this year because they've gotten to a point where Microsoft will no longer support the operating systems anymore. So they,
So
you know, they get
quite
updated
old,
fairly
yeah,
quick
yeah.
now. Yeah, with computers,
They upgrade
they
so
upgrade
much
pretty
every
quickly.
year, so, okay.
And on the water side, we put in money for a new vehicle there because our vehicle's a 2002 with over 95,000 miles on it, so. And some other various equipment, some confined space equipment, as well as valve exercisers to help to maintain our system. So those were the significant increases in the budget.
With the truck, I know it's a 2002, and thank God, we're very fortunate here. We really get our money's worth out of our equipment and everything. But is this one going to have a lift to it, or,
Right now, I mean, for the water department, probably it would be a utility body, but we are looking at other options too. I mean, we
Okay.
put in enough money for a utility body, but we will shop around. Some other places use vans and different type of vehicles, so.
oh, okay,
The time we can look around when it is, but we did put money in the budget to replace that vehicle.
okay, good.
So those are the largest and the significant increases in the budget for this year. In this budget, with the increase that we have here, it would be an average tax value of $1,426, an increase of $147.20 per year, which figures out to about $12.27 per month. And that's pretty much the summary of the budget this year. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or...
Question on the schedule for the salaries and wages. Under police, we have, are we budgeting for an extra police officer? Because we have just, unless I got it wrong, there's 6 people there.
What page is that on, Rich?
That's the summary of salaries.
Only we have 24. You have the part-time police chief, a sergeant, 4 patrolmen, and 1 patrolman.
It should be 3 patrolmen. We're budgeted for our current amount, 3
Okay.
patrolmen, 1 sergeant, and the other patrolmen's are separate because they're at a different salary line. That's why they break out that way.
So it should be the patrolman.
It should be 1, 3.
1, 3, and 1.
1, and a
Okay.
part-time chief.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's what's budgeted for. I'm sorry that we didn't
Right.
correct that on that.
Is this, did we change the number on the budget for the chief to the part-time salary, or are we?
That was always figured in the first time. With the part-time chief, it went from the full-time chief salary to a $30,000 salary for a
So
part-time
what
chief.
I have here is not the most, am I looking at the one that's not up to date? Let's see.
There should be only 1 tentative. There wasn't any changes made to it. Public safety, page 7.
Okay, no, but I was looking at the initial one that I think you gave us before that got put in there.
Sure. On page 7, if you look at it, the police line, line 3120-100, which is the salary line, it went from previous budget of $700,000 down to $585,000, which was reflective of
No,
reducing.
it's correct on this one. I was looking at the
Sure.
the rough draft that you might have given us beforehand.
Yeah.
I guess that's what this is. Yep.
What line was that again, Ken?
Page 7, line 3120-100.
Okay. Oh, okay, I see, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then also, we increased the contingency.
That is correct. That was one other
Okay.
item. We went from $175,000 to $230,000 in the contingency for any overages, equipment that we need to buy that wasn't planned for, those type of items.
No, I think that's a healthier place to be. I'm going to tell you a story going back in the day, not so many years ago, and Kevin had first started, and I remember one of the budget sessions, and Sean Murray was on the board, I was on the board, and Al Dunny was the mayor, and we were fighting over the contingency. And at the time, it was only, we fought to put
25,000.
25,000 in, and others thought it should be 0. So, but you do have to have something in there because things happen, as we've seen this year, the sewer treatment plant and other, things that weren't planned for, so 230. I'd like to see more, but I don't want to raise the taxes any higher than they are. I'd like to see that amount be less, but we got a lot going on here. Last year's budget, we were at, when we came in, it was 5.36. So this is a tough budget.
One other item to mention, worth mentioning, is that the paving budget is up to $250,000 as well.
That's right, I forgot about that. So it's up to 250, plus we have other monies coming in from the
Money's left over
state.
from last year, and we'll get money from CHIPS.
Money left over from last year, I think, was
About 70,000?
And then the state, I think the projection is about 70, roughly 70, between
Right,
CHIPS
depending on how much
and
paving we
different
did
things.
in previous year.
So we have a budget approximately of $400,000 for road work, and the administrator, and I think our highway foreman, and also our engineer will be going out soon, looking at the worst roads, and we'll address what we can for $400,000.
We had started out with a lower figure for the roads, and we increased it.
We increased it in this budget year. Last year, I believe it was 200,000. This year, it's 250.
Where's that, is that under, where is that under?
It's at the end of the budget, just before, it's transfers to other accounts.
Capital fund?
Yes,
Okay, so that road money goes into the capital fund?
that is correct.
Okay. Okay.
So this is the second
where we
time
are,
we're going
yes.
through the budget. Do any of the board members have anything to add, to say, any suggestions for any ways to cut this, or?
I'm good.
On that, on the roads, the 400,000, is that gonna come down in co-projects with the town or anything like that, or is it our share of it?
Yeah.
That would be what we pay.
That's our
right.
share.
That would be
Okay.
Yeah.
the money we have to pave our roads.
So we have 250 that we're putting in, and what was the other 150 that brought it up to 400 is a combination
There
of...
was a 70 of leftover from last year's.
And
that
then
we
another
didn't use.
70 that we get from, or it could be another
Yeah.
70 that we get from
The
CHIPS.
estimation is about 70.
Right, so that's budget carryover
Trips, there was.
in the capital fund, as well as whatever
CHIPS
state
money.
money we get. Okay.
And to remind everyone again, the 9A, because I'm just going to say this constantly, 9A Albany Post Road is not Village of Buchanan roads, it's New York State roads. The state has notified us, starting in June sometime, that whole section will be repaved. It will start from Welcher Avenue and go down south through the village, so we will have a brand-new road. So we're happy about that.
Really?
And we're not paying for it directly, indirectly with our state taxes, but it's not coming out of village taxpayer money, so. It's got to be a multi-million-dollar project, just for Buchanan. Okay, any other,
Well, I have a few things.
Sure.
No,
Chief,
go
do you
ahead.
have-
No, I'm-
Okay, so I've been basically taking the stance on this budget that it's the last year we have a full budget without any loss of revenue from Entergy. Anything that comes up in the future is only going to get more drastic and more difficult in terms of raising the revenue and in terms of tax increases. So my feeling, as I've been saying since we first preliminarily discussed the budget, is we should basically get our house in order. Anything that has to get done in the way of repairs, anything that we can anticipate that we need to budget for, we need to do now, because it's only going to get harder. I don't want to make things up to spend money on, but I also don't want to ignore things. Repairs that are sitting there and festering that we know are going to come up in a month or in a year or two are things we should budget for now. So and some of these things have been incorporated into the budget. I want to thank the administrator for his work on this. It's always a lot of work for him, and he always does a great job. And he has revised a few things after the board discussed a few things, that some money's been added in here and there. But I just want to go through a list of a few things and see if we're covering them, because I'm not exactly sure. One of them, I'll just start, I have a list here. The first thing is we talked about putting up new signs, entry into the village, and is that something that'll come out of any particular line that's in the budget now, or is that something we need to budget for?
That was put in, that was an item that's in the sign line that I added a little bit of money to get prices in to do the signs.
So we're covering that, excellent.
That's correct.
Pool repairs is a potential big one, and we were going to meet with somebody who could assess that, and, because we right now, tell me if I'm wrong, but if the pool is running overnight, we lose about 3 feet of water,
If it's set up a certain way overnight, yes, we do lose water at the pool.
which
That's
is,
correct.
something we want to avoid. Obviously, indirectly, we're paying for that, because, we have to pay the Montrose Improvement District for our water, so residents are kind of paying for that water indirectly, even though it's not coming out of their house. It affects the rates and the total village billing. Have we assessed that?
Do we have a final price for that? I'm not 100% sure. I know we were looking.
Well, I know there's not going to be a 100% guaranteed answer until they start digging things up and
Right. That's
and
kind of
seeing what's
until the end of
underneath
the
there.
season.
I just want to make sure that we're budgeting something that's realistic, given that they have to dig up some of the paved areas around the pool, and I'd like to know where we are on that right now, and what line, where we've budgeted for that.
I think we had a discussion, I think our highway foreman was supposed to speak to a contractor, but he felt, I'm sorry if I'm speaking for you, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, or you can come up to the podium too, he felt that it would be simpler and would be cheaper if we just put a separate filter for the kiddie pool. Yeah, come on up.
Well, right now, we're in the process of having a contract with the pool now. He's already dug up all the valves. So we're right now going to wait until we get pool in the water to see what these valves are doing, because the plans aren't helping us at all that we have. So we're thinking it might be a simpler fix than what we're anticipating. Hopefully, we're lucky enough that's what it is. Until we get water in the pool, we can operate the pool to see what's really going on here. It might be just a matter of a broken valve that's not working properly. Maybe the leak's right there. We have everything uncovered right now, so.
Okay, so right now, is this the other expense line under the municipal pool, which is listing $16,000 in the budget? Is that the line where this work would come out of?
Most likely that would be where we would take it out of for the pool.
Okay. And I mean, the contingency, which you said, what, 230?
230,000.
Which is good, but, and I'm very comfortable thinking that some things can go into contingency, that's what it's for. But a lot of things can come up and the contingency can get eaten up. We were $250,000 in the hole on last year's budget, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly more stuff came up than was in the contingency. So you can't, so I'm okay with saying, okay, and if it turns out to be a bigger repair, then we have the contingency. I'm okay with saying that. But as we go through a big list of items, you can't say that for everything, because,
Correct.
something like Murphy's Law, give it enough time, it'll happen, or
Yeah,
whatever.
that kind of happened this year.
Yeah,
There was a lot
that
of,
last year was a big Murphy's Law year.
expenses
Yeah.
from the sewer treatment plant
Okay,
that were
so we
not
think it might not be
seen.
too bad. We have 16,000 budgeted, and worst case scenario, that's one thing the contingency could be used for. Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob. Lens Cove, I sent an email to the board. There's when you go out to the end of the cove there, the stonework is all collapsing. There are wooden steps that when the park was fixed up about 25 years ago, there were like wooden steps and landscaping. That stuff is all rotting. There's a concrete bench that's laying on its side. It just broke off of its legs. I don't know if that can be repaired or if it's got to get carted away. Do we have money budgeted to, right now, to me, the Lens Cove Park is a disgrace. It's a mess. I don't even want to, normally I like to tout our park and tell people go there, but I'm afraid to even do that now. It's in such bad shape. Now, Understandably, we would like to get some assistance with grants when we're talking about improvements and, maybe having a kayak, canoe, a paddle boat launching thing. So those kinds of things, hope maybe we can get some grant money. But for the maintenance and the safety, I think we need to do a little more maintenance there. Do we have that budgeted in?
We have $10,000 in the budget line for Lens Cove, 465, of which we used about $1,000 last year. So we do have some money in that line that we could spend for, and this year we talked about the repairing of stairs and fence work and other things at the park. And we probably could incorporate, I think you had in your picture.
I'm guessing this is something we have to get outside contractors for?
It depends on what the work is. I mean, we could look at it ourselves, plus, yes, in some cases, we need to get a contract.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the highway department could maybe fix a broken bench, but they're not, I don't know that they're going to do stone paving work and building new steps. That's usually not, right? That would be something that we'd get outside contractors for?
If we can't do it, we could.
All right, so did we feel that is enough there?
Well, you know what, let me just say something else. We are, together with the town of Cortland, with the, there was some money that was given out to form a plan, what did
The
they call it?
LWRP, which.
LWRP.
Right, Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan.
So.
It's a grant to develop a plan.
Okay, so let's not talk about improvements and boat launches and whatever, gazebos and playgrounds. I mean, we've talked about getting a playground, and the things that grant money would go to. Let's just talk about safety. We got rotten wooden steps.
Okay, then we will address that.
We have collapsed stonework. We have a big concrete bench laying on its side. I'm just talking about maintenance and safety right now. I'm not even talking about.
And how long has that been there like that? That didn't just happen over the winter. That was like that last
I don't know
year.
when that bench fell. The wood has been getting progressively worse, and the stonework, I'm not sure if that was from thaws this winter. Truthfully, it's the first time I noticed how bad it was. It might have been a little saggy before, maybe some storms washed it out. Whatever it is, there's some maintenance. Aside
then
from
some of that stuff we
aside
should
from
be doing
waterfront
internally.
improvement and things we would use grants for, I'm just talking about maintenance. So is that 10,000? We should be good with that, or
I think it's a good starting point, yeah.
We'll address the dangerous things first, and then, I'm not looking to bump this budget up to 25% either. I understand what you're
I'm just
saying,
go- I'm
that we
going
have
through
to
the
do
items.
safety
This
and
is-
maintenance.
this
I
is,
get that. I understand that,
okay.
but I'm
Yep.
not looking to,
Okay,
Too crazy.
I just want to make sure we're budgeting for
Okay.
things that we can anticipate. Okay,
Excuse me, can you just push your mic forward?
Mine?
No,
forward.
you're a little too
Oh,
close.
okay.
I'm too close? Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. Crosswalk striping, is that something in our budget? Do we have any striping to do? We have a couple of unmarked crosswalks in the circle.
That's part of our general maintenance every
so
year.
that's-
There's money
that's in the
for
budget.
that,
We have
yes.
some
We have a
general-
striping machine, and we
okay.
need, buying paint and other items.
Office renovations, we've added money in the budget to do some things that, we'll decide what they are. So
Yes.
that's good. New garbage truck is on my list, which has been budgeted for.
Correct.
It's time, yeah.
Payouts to employees with banked hours. Every time this happens, we get surprised. We're like the goldfish who gets surprised every time he sees the same castle. It's been happening every year since I've been on the board, and we still don't budget for it. Are we still going to leave it that way, or are we going to start budgeting for payouts that we know we're probably getting hit for, maybe 30, 40,000 a year? Is that just?
Or 65.
Well, it could be 120,000 one year, and it could be nothing for 2 years. So I'm just trying to think, on the average, maybe it's 30 or 40,000 a year. I'm not, I haven't added up all the.
Do you feel comfortable with what's in the contingency?
Looking at what we have employee-wise and retirements, I don't think we have another retirement probably for 2 years. But yeah, sometimes we get surprised. Usually we try to anticipate, but it doesn't always work that way because people change their plans. They retire a year before you would expect. Going forward, like I said, I don't think we have another retirement for 2 years, but then we could have a significant number after that.
And that was one of the reasons we would over in the budget last
Yes.
year, because
Well-
we did
had
not
two
budget for
payouts
that.
last year.
One retirement wasn't, the contract ended in May 31st, which would have fell into the new budget year. So that was, I think the ex-chief got paid $100,000. So that,
Yeah,
going
yeah.
according to the
But-
contract.
But that's all stuff
that
we can
would've,
anticipate. And since I've been on this board, I've always said we should never view the budget as a one-year thing. We should view it as a five-year thing. You should have a plan, because there's always things you can anticipate, whether it's vehicles, repairs, maintenance, retiring employees that you have to, pay out for their banked vacation hours that they haven't used. And if we're not doing that, we're putting our heads in the sand. Every budget should be viewed as the first step in a longer-range plan. Otherwise, we're not fully being fiscally responsible if we're ignoring the other stuff because we feel uncomfortable raising taxes. I don't want to raise taxes if we don't have to, but I also don't want the village to fall apart. And I also don't want to have budget deficits when we can anticipate things. That's all I'm saying.
I think we've been fiscally responsible the last several years.
We've been
What-
darn good.
Yeah, it's a very tight budget. We run a tight ship here. We don't have a
Right.
lot of fat. We've
Right,
trimmed
we've
up
been
the
darn
fat.
good. I'm not saying that, but we
Vehicles.
also have not, we've also been hesitant to factor in things, long-range things, that we can anticipate, and that's all I want to do. So, next thing is the pavilion roof repairs. Do we have enough budgeted for the work that has to get done on the pavilion roof? Is that in here?
That's in there.
It's I know that came up, and I
That
just
is
wanted to be
correct,
sure
yes.
that. And security cameras is in
It's
there.
budgeted, yes.
And the road paving, which you addressed. I see we're just the last item I have is the tax stabilization fund, which in a year when we're getting a bigger increase could help us a little bit, even maybe knock 5% off an increase. I think, we're only putting 25,000 in there, that's peanuts. I think we know next year that we're going to lose, tell me if I'm wrong, about $450,000 in revenue from Entergy in the first year,
Approximately, yeah.
which would be 30% for one plant, or total of about 15% of the total Entergy income, and that's going to be about $450,000. And right off the bat, that's about a 22% increase. So my feeling is we could kind of take a little of the pain away next year if we put more in the tax stabilization fund. That is a fund for people that are not familiar with this. It's a reserve fund where the money is set aside for one use, unlike your bank account that you could use for everything, or your general fund. A reserve fund is set aside for specific things, and this fund is specifically to offset large tax increases that could come up in the future. We know we're going to have, good chance we're going to have some of that, and I personally would like to put more in the tax stabilization fund than $25,000. Anyone else have an opinion on that?
I think we had gotten some feedback from some of the residents that they didn't want to, I'm just telling you what some of the residents said, that they didn't want to increase their taxes or put that money aside ahead of the time that they would.
Well, that's allegorical. You could talk to a few people and get that, and that's allegorical. It's
Talk to
not.
many people.
So, but when we did a survey on this last year, a little over a year ago, and we had 170 responses from the village, which is more than just talking to a few people.
No, I talked to more people than, people do speak to me.
Okay.
I know
Well,
it's
here's
shocking.
170 people, some of whom you may know,
I am
some of whom may. Let me finish
I am
talking,
out
please.
all the time.
Let me finish.
I am out all the time. People call me, people email me. I am very active out there in the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't just come to 2 meetings
Okay.
a month.
Well,
I am out
that's-
there talking to people, and they are talking to me.
Understood, that's still allegorical to me. And this is 170 respondents to our survey, and it was kind of split between people that wanted to start phasing in the tax increases in 2018-19, people that wanted to start the tax increases around 2020, 2021, and people that wanted one giant tax increase at the end. The reality is, we can't do one tax increase at the end because we're going to start losing revenue before both plants are closed. But about 40%, a little more than a third, did express that they'd like to see the tax increases start getting phased in 2018, 2019. So that's 170 responses, and that was done by us.
Nick, could you move your microphone
Oh,
back, because it's getting an echo time.
well, I don't really need the microphone for the room. Do I need it for there? If I
Yes, yeah, for the
Can you
tape,
hear me like
yes.
that?
Yeah,
Or-
you're pretty good.
Okay,
Just too close before.
okay. I guess I got excited and I wanted to eat the mic. All right, so anyway, a little bit more than a third wanted to see these tax increases phased in. That's all I'm saying.
Okay,
My
well-
personal opinion is the tax stabilization fund should be, a little bit more should be added to that.
Well, I think, Nick, you know, you're on the right trail in terms of, we've got to be prudent about how we increase the budget and increase our revenues and our taxation. And I tell you quite frankly, in talking to folks in the community, a phased-in approach is what I'm hearing. And for us to be, you know, conscious of, you know, we already know what our losses are going to be when the first plant closes. So to be proactive right now in terms of increasing, you know, what that shortfall is going to be, I think is a very prudent measure to go forward with. So I kind of like maybe another 2% somewhere down the way in this budget.
You think there should be more added to the
Sure.
tax stabilization fund?
Exactly.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
number is the tax stabilization?
We've been
It's-
doing 25,000. So, I'll leave it open to the board.
How
What-
much
what's
more
everyone's
would 2%
thoughts?
be? How much?
Another
What page is that,
40,000.
Kevin?
Another
20
40,000?
Around 40,000, each
So it would be a
percentage.
total of 40,000?
No, there's 25 there now, and
It's
that
page
is...
16?
16.
Well, I kind of had this conversation with Kevin where, you know, we wanted to look at what those increments would be. And what was it, 40,000 per,
Every 1% is 20,000.
no, 20,000.
In this
right.
budget, almost a
Okay.
little bit over that, but about that for
About
a round number.
22,000?
About 20.
About 20? Okay.
Yeah, so I think it'd be prudent to, you know, at least look at 2% into the fund.
2% of what?
Last year, we put in 25,000, correct?
Right.
Yes.
And we're budgeting 25 now. Okay, I mean, whatever the board is willing to do, I think maybe at least add another 25 to it, is my feeling.
It's a democracy, so I
Okay.
want to hear from all the board members.
So an extra 2% would put an additional 40,000 into
It's
that?
about
So
40,000.
that would be a total of 65,000?
25 plus, yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay,
That's correct.
okay.
And the tax bite on that would be approximately what?
13.5. That will bring it up to
13.5,
13.5.
Kevin, I saw it before, now I can't find it. Do you know where that line is?
Page 16.
You just knew that right off the top of your head?
I just gave it to Rich.
Oh. Oh, okay, page 16, there it is.
I go 1%. I mean, we're already pretty high at 11 and a quarter. And I understand the logic and everything else, but we really don't have a definitive thing. We're making a decision based upon saying that definitively we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We may not be in as much trouble as we think we are, so I'd go for 1.
I mean, you're describing trouble as the...
I mean, economically.
Well, we know we're going to lose 22% of our budget
Yeah.
next year. 450,000
Approximately, right? Yeah.
income, which is about 22%. So we know that unless suddenly Entergy starts paying us more money or the state aid that will not come through until after all this stuff, if there is any, right? I mean,
2022 is
yeah,
when we'll
so
be able to draw the
So pretty
first.
much guaranteed
What-
next year, that's a
yeah.
22% tax increase just to
One thing
replace
that
the loss of
I'd
income.
like to say, though, about what's very difficult with our village budget is, the elephant in the room is the school. And I don't know about anybody else here or anybody else on the board, but I've heard nothing from the school superintendent about any intentions of saving money. So therefore, I don't know how much that's going to go up. So it's difficult to say, well, we should be adding this to here, because we're talking about 65% of an individual family's tax warrant against them. So it's a difficult decision to make. Has anybody here heard from Mr. Hochmeyer about what he's doing? Is he going to combine schools? Or is he going to have any way of saving money in the community? Or is he just, I have heard, and I won't say this is firsthand knowledge, but I have heard that he made a statement that, well, we should be paying what everybody else in Westchester is. That means taxes could go up to $16,000, $17,000 for people.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but, Madam Mayor, wasn't there a fund set aside for industrial places that go belly up or go
Power
out of
plants,
power
yeah,
plants?
power plants.
And that a special school fund was set up to supplement that school system during such occasion. And I thought that this would be the case in our situation.
Yeah, that's the cessation fund.
Right.
And for us, we have to lose a certain percentage before we're allowed to draw from that fund. So the big fight with the state budget this year, so everyone knows, there was no money put in to the state budget for the cessation fund. So that's being drawn down now by other communities in the state, like coal plants and different other energy companies. So there's things that are being worked on. I hope that gets funded. But to make a long story short, I'm sorry to answer your question, the school, the town, and we can
Yeah.
pull from that fund,
But
but we're not eligible until 2022 for the village,
Right, but I thought that the school part of that was much more pronounced in terms of what they could get, the amount that they could get, and when they could get it. I may be wrong in making that
I'm not
assumption.
familiar with it.
Yeah.
There I remember reading something in the paper where they were exploring some other funding options, but I think they might have some options that we don't have on a shorter-term
Oh,
basis.
yeah.
But I'm not really familiar with what that is.
and I don't want to speak for them, they are negotiating now. There's some negotiations going on between the state and other places, so I don't want to, it's not for me to speak on their behalf. So, yeah, that's the fund that we would all pull from. The school has different opportunities too. If they're considered a poor district, they get more funding. I think we will be considered a poor district when they lose approximately 35% of their income. I think that's going to adjust things. But like I said, I'm not on the school board, I'm not totally privy to their budget, so I don't want to discuss too much about that.
Keeping all of those things in mind, though, I think it's, again, prudent of us to make an increase where we put a little bit more meat on the bone. And Rich said one, I started out with two. I'd like to work something in the middle. I don't know if I've got any support with that.
Well, if we're going to work in the middle, how about I say a higher figure, so the middle is higher?
Hold on.
Yeah.
So we're talking an extra 1% would be 20,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're at 11.5. How about we do that extra 5, if any, and I agree with both of you, by the way, and Rich as well. Why don't we put in that extra 10 and just make it an even 13% increase? Total, and that'll be an extra 30,000 we can put into the fund.
I can go with that.
You have 25 in there now, we had 25
Correct.
from last year?
Yes.
So
I believe that's
50,
the
so it'd
number
be
from last
80.
year.
So that would be an additional 30, correct?
So you're talking, just for clarification, so you're talking about 30,000 more adding.
And that would put our final percentage tax increase at 13% instead of 11.5, is that correct?
I will do it right now.
So, yeah, 1.5, so 1.5, 5.5, 12, 13.
So we kind of just meet in the middle there. And
Change is coming, change is
So,
coming.
yeah, so by the way, I mean, just, Rich, I understand the school situation is an 800-pound
Right.
gorilla in the room, but that's not in our control, That's my feeling. And this is our house, and we have to control the budget in our house, That's my feeling. much as the schools could be the thing that hurt people a lot, we don't have anything we can do about that.
Sorry, so.
No. There are things that are still being worked on, but nothing's in cement yet, so. So we're just going on right now on the information that we have.
Sorry, I put it in the wrong line.
Is anybody else, while Kevin is working on that, Nick, did you go through your list of things?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did, yes.
Anybody else have any other comments before I open it up to the public?
I
Good?
think, those things with the roads, the truck, the roof, the pool.
Things.
those are
I mean,
major-
we've
major
really
points.
done some major work here. We've, over the years here, we've gotten our highway department roof done. We've put a lot of money into our old equipment and did a lot of replacing of the equipment. We just did a lot of work, and we were fortunate to have that money so that we could kind of stabilize ourselves with a lot of things. The new windows have saved us substantial on the heating, so we have been on top of things trying to, not even knowing what was coming, I guess preparing.
How about those LED lights?
And the LED lights were a huge savings, and,
Well, the water meters are gonna give us some.
Well, there's, the water meters
I got my new water
are-
bill and I liked it.
You did?
Yeah, I like
Most
mine.
people are not liking that water bill. I myself got some substantial.
I got a tummy ache.
But Kevin, if, I don't know if you want to address it or you want me to address it, it's up to you.
It's fine. The new water meters went in other than about 15 meters. We've had some complaints, with the new meters. Some of them, we had them all bench tested. Some of them are running slower. Not all, I won't say all of them, but we're also finding, I think, in some cases that maybe the remote reads on the outside of the house were not operating properly either. So yes, some people are going to, see a larger bill at this cycle, and this is going to be the roughest of the cycles, I believe, right now, is that as we transition into the new meters, I think going forward, it'll be very smooth. But yeah, some people are going to see higher meters. We will, come out and take a look at it if they think there's a significant issue, but sometimes we're finding that the inside meter number is different than what was on the remote, so could it have been running slower? Again, meters don't run faster, so a lot of the meters in people's houses could have some significant years on them. I can't say they'll all be 40 or 50 years old. Some of them are. Some of them have been replaced, but we're working through it, and, as complaints come in, we'll address them and try to work with everybody.
And some were original? Do you think some were original, or?
I don't know if they
Close
have
to
a
it?
date or there's a way
Oh,
of telling
okay.
when they were
All right.
originally put in.
So
but
they
were all
go
tested.
slower, so it wouldn't show the accurate bill if they were running slower, the
Yeah,
older
so
meters.
some
so-
people could have been having meters that were running, at 80% of capacity or some 90, 95. We have a whole range of,
Okay. But if anybody feels that there is a problem with their new meters, please contact the office, and we'll send someone out to take a look at it. Okay?
They also sent that page with the bill, where you
Yes.
can get an app or
I
something.
think that's a great idea for most people. You
Follow
can-
your water.
You can log on, you can create an account, and you can monitor your water usage. It's a great way to see if there's a leak. I think we found one that,
Yeah.
a complaint about a water meter, that there was a leak in the house, so, it's a good option. I think it's good for all the residents to sign up. You don't have to check it daily necessarily, but, from time to time, it allows you to monitor your usage.
Yeah. Yep.
So the number finally, after adding that in, is 12.98, so just about 13.
13.
You added in 30?
Yes, 30, it's making it 55,000.
12.98?
12.98.
12.98.
So there'll be 80 altogether in there by the end of this year.
I think that's a prudent move and, start in the right direction.
Right direction.
Yeah,
I agree.
And, yeah.
Well, enjoy it, guys, because this is the last small tax increase for a while.
Yeah, until we get into 2022, unless these other things come on board here.
We might need a Ouija board to figure out where we're going to be in 2022.
Hey, oh, I do want to mention something. I think this is an appropriate time.
The village is getting a Ouija board?
Yeah, well, I'll get one, no problem. I'll donate that. Going forward here, the rumor mill is alive and active, and I really do need to, anything I hear or see, I really do need to address to everyone, because I don't want you to hear rumors and think, this is what's happening. But I'm disappointed in this one posting I saw, somebody sent it to me, and disappointed but not surprised. So we're all going to get a good laugh out of this. But this could have helped our budget. But word has it that Spectra Enbridge, the big pipeline that came through here several years ago, is giving Buchanan $2 million to let them do more pipeline work near Indian Point. And of course, I take a shot about that. Why did the mayor fight the pipeline and just turn around and sell us out? Well, I am not selling you out. This, in fact, is not true. This came from an environmentalist. They're not happy that the Citizens Advisory Panel has been taken, is being done differently. We are not getting $2 million. Spectra is not looking to tap into the pipeline or put another pipeline in. There's been no conversations, no meetings, no discussions, nor has there been any permits whatsoever. So I think this is a reckless statement. I'm disappointed in the statement, but that is not what's happening here. So I think going forward, I hope that the environmentalist community and the Citizens Advisory Panel will be able to work together. It's for the benefit of the community going forward. So, like I said, there were a few FOILs requests that were put in. So there has been nothing that is happening with that pipeline. And if there was, there'd be a discussion with the board, and then we would inform the public what's going on. So I can honestly tell you, there is nothing going on at this time. So we will not be adding the $2 million into this budget.
I have to, because I consider myself to be an environmentalist. I think we need environmentalists now. We don't need bullshit artists, okay? So there's a distinction. I don't want that, there are environmentalists that are truthful too, but this is lies, and the problem is that we had a liar, not that, environmentalists are not necessarily all liars.
But I think we're all environmentalists, and
We have to
I'm
be.
just going to get off the subject. We all like clean water, we all like clean air, we all like beautiful trees and green grass. We're all environmentalists, but we don't go to extremes either.
No, that's nonsense.
So going forward, hopefully we can work together. Anyhow, I'd like to open this up to the floor. Any comments from the public? What are you thinking, everybody? 100% tax increase? What do you think, Nick? I don't think so. Just wanted to say.
Hello.
Hello, Eileen. Good evening.
I have one question. Well, I have maybe two questions, maybe three. Not on the budget per se, but over at Lentz Cove, what's going on with the property before the baseball field? It looked like there was a lot of trees that were taken down or being cut up.
Tree fell down.
Oh, a tree fell down, but that's
Recently?
our property,
Or from-
No,
correct?
that was that storm.
Oh, that storm last
Yeah,
year.
Yeah.
No.
Recently.
Recently.
That 2 weeks ago, a big tree came down right by the road there.
Okay, all right. What is the story with the, there was a mention at one point of a possibility of having a system similar to what's in Valhalla up here with the pooper scoopers that go down to Valhalla and unload their waste products over at our sewer treatment plant as a
Oh.
revenue.
Oh, okay. There's that, we're working with the county on some shared services also. I think you're talking about the sludge from the sewer treatment
No,
plant?
I'm talking about when the guys go, they do the septic tanks and they go
Oh.
down to Valhalla.
Okay.
That was a mention that that was a possible revenue incentive for the village, and I wasn't sure if that was still on the board, still on the table, or is
That-
that off?
No, all of that is still on the table, but right now, we're working on, we had gotten a grant for $40,000 to look at the upgrades that has to happen with the sewer treatment plant. I'm not sure if we're ready right now to do it with our system that we have, but that is one of the options we're looking at for revenue. Another option is tying in other communities. We've been talking to the Montrose Business Association and also the town of Cortland. Of course, they would do all the infrastructure. We're not doing that, and they would be able to tie into our sewer treatment plant for a fee. There's other communities that potentially going forward that can tie into our sewer treatment plant. We have some upgrades to do, but first we have to see exactly what we need to do before, we start the upgrade. There is going to be money available in the next couple of years, either through New York State, through grants. One of the things I will tell you I'm definitely going after is the $15 million fund from Entergy, so that we can do our sewer treatment plant over, because that's definitely considered an environmental, especially in our area here. We have one company who is on the Hudson River, and they have a septic system, and that's in the village, so they would tie into us. Also around Lake Mihawk, a lot of those communities do not have, they have septic.
Right.
So we're looking at that. Of course, we wouldn't be paying for any infrastructure. That would be on the people who hook in, and then, like I said, they will be charged a fee. Another option is also having what they call the honey dippers, the septic, they clean the septic, being able to come in, and they would pay a fee here instead of going down county.
Well, that was what.
So, yeah, that was it.
That was a revenue.
Yeah, it was the septic tank cleaner.
Yeah.
So that's a potential option for us that we're going to pursue still. So
Okay.
that's still on the table. We haven't walked away, but when we talk about the upgrades to the plant, it's going to be substantial.
Okay, so I asked a question at the workshop or organizational meeting in regards to if the NRC says that Entergy cannot close, where does that put the pilot, and where does that put that loss of $450,000 in the next budget?
If they don't close, there's no loss.
Yeah. It's only when they cease operation.
The phasing out
Complete, or just one unit or both units?
proportionally.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No, that's okay.
proportionally.
Yeah.
So when the first plant closes, the tax from that plant goes down 30%.
Right,
But that's only one of two plants.
correct.
So it's actually 15% of the total income from Entergy in the first year.
Is that, so
Then the
you
next
mentioned
year-
400,000 next year would be out of our budget?
Yes.
So are you
450,
saying that it's 15% of that, or was it 800,
That's
900,000?
15% of the total Entergy money, or 30% of the one of the two plants.
Okay,
You know,
so,
each plant accounts for about $1.5 million,
okay,
3 million total.
So if they don't close, though,
So
the-
30% the
close.
first year is
There's
on
no-
one plant.
There's no effect if it
Yeah.
doesn't close.
Yeah. If it doesn't
But-
close, then there's no phase out. The tax revenue phases out after they close, only if they close.
no, I know, I got
Yeah.
that.
But I will tell you this, it's not the NRC's decision. The NRC gave them the extended license till 2024.
2024, right.
But here's the problem. So Unit 2 is scheduled to cease operations next April, but they have to know pretty quickly within the
Right.
next month, because it takes a year to get the fuel. So if this fuel for Unit 2 isn't ordered by, well, really, it's the end of April. If it's not, that plant ceases operation automatically.
Okay, so hypothetically again, since they've talked about selling this to the decommissioning company at the end of the year, how does that play into, does the decommissioning company have to keep Unit 1 operating and just decommission Unit 2 if it shuts down?
The decommissioning company will not purchase until Unit 3 closes. 2 and 3 are closed.
2 and 3 close?
Yeah.
So they could sell it, but it won't be, nothing will occur until
I think
after that
Entergy still has
last.
to operate it as long as there's nuclear generation. Only when it's shut down completely would, if I'm not mistaken, would they take, the decommissioning company would take possession? Only after there's no more nuclear generation.
Right.
Well, the only reason I'm asking this is because there are so many balls up in the air. No one has any answers. And
Nothing's in stone yet. and
the school
there's-
system doesn't have any answers, but we had a liaison to the school. Who was the contact person at the school who should have been giving the village information that you're questioning, Rich? That's my question. I mean, you've got board members up there, you've got a president of the board, Barbara Pedersen. She's always available to talk to anybody.
Yeah,
I
Barbara's
mean,
good.
she's great.
Yeah.
If you can't get in touch with the superintendent, because I'm sure his plate is full also. So that would be my question. We should have had the liaison speaking with the school so that we were a little better informed. Instead of hearing 13% for each year for 4 years will bring us up to the, supposed amount. That was one statement that went out.
Yeah.
And that doesn't give us any definitive answer. But I would think that the liaison from the village has to be in contact with the school board or school superintendent to report back to us what they are doing.
No, that's a good point.
Okay,
No,
because,
I'll follow that up.
yeah, because Joe did put a letter out that I got a copy of, but since you don't have kids, you don't get the letters.
Yeah.
But there was a letter sent out for parents of children about the school budget was within the cap of this year, and that, well, maybe we don't know what's going to happen for the next
Well,
year.
I mean, regardless if we have kids or not, as taxpayers.
That's right. I
You know.
just felt it was unfortunate that we didn't, as taxpayers,
Yeah,
get
no.
that letter.
I will follow up on that.
Yeah,
and,
because I think
report
right
back to the
now it's a
board.
Okay,
really
good.
important liaison to that school,
No,
so that we do have a little more information,
And get some
whether we
clarity.
like it or not.
sure.
Okay?
The
Thank you.
the schools also, their hands are tied as far as the budget because the village board needs 3 out of 5 members to vote in favor to override the tax cap. School districts have to have a public vote and get at least 60% of the public to approve overriding the tax cap. You need a 60%, or a majority. And in governments, it's the majority of the board. In schools, it's the majority of the public. So they can't just say, we're going to raise taxes 5%.
Okay, so my point of the school system is I want to know, what are they doing to curb this budget? They may stay within the tax cap right now, but next year they may not be in the tax cap. So you're saying that due to the circumstances of Entergy closing, that they will have to have 60% of the people
Approve the budget.
A budget increase.
Approve overriding the tax cap.
approve, even though they had nothing, this was not their doing.
Correct.
Entergy closing is not the school's doing, so they still have to have that 60%?
Yeah, now the state might work with them on some other way to fund things, I don't know.
Right.
Right.
But as far as overriding the tax cap, the schools have to go to a public vote.
Okay. Even if you get the minutes from the school meeting, that would even help,
Okay.
okay? And just kind of itemize it or, see, and then maybe you can base your questions on that too, Barbara.
Get us some
Or-
understanding.
That's what I would do.
Thank you, Eileen. And there are some negotiations that continue to go on, so I can't get into too much detail, but, yeah, some challenging times, This is one of the, if we talk about the history of the village, one of the big things, of course, was the amusement park coming to that property. Another big event in the village was Con Edison in the buying in the mid-'50s and Unit 1 going online in '62. This is another huge event here in our history of the closing of these power plants. So there's some challenges ahead, and it's not, okay, we're working on things, And what I'd like everyone to know, and I'm going to keep mentioning this, on May 2nd, normally I do that at the organizational meeting, but on May 2nd, we're going to have a State of the Village meeting, and I'd like as many people here to come as possible. There's been rumors spread around, so I am available, any questions, and if it's something that gets into negotiations, just know I cannot respond to that. We will have projections, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll hand out packets to everyone, just trying to keep everyone informed what's coming and what we're trying to do to mitigate what's happening. Any other comments from the floor? Okay, what we did is we held this open, our vote. So in a minute, I'm going to close the public hearing. We're going to meet again on April 30th because this budget has to be passed before May 1st. So on April 30th, we have another meeting. I will open up the public hearing again. So if anyone has any other comments, the board, the audience, please come back on April 30th, 7:30, and that's when we will pass the final budget for 2019-2020.
On a motion?
On a motion to close the public hearing, or no, not to close, on a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone, for coming, and have a great Buchanan Day.